10 years. That's how long I gave to the Harper family's company. It all started in a tiny, windowless office that smelled like old coffee and desperation. Back then, I was just a guy trying to prove himself. 2 interns, 1 ancient laptop, and a mountain of work nobody else wanted to touch. Supply chains? Check. Logistics? Done. Closing deals so big they made my hands sweat? You bet. Late nights became my life, and my wife, Rachel, kept begging me to slow down. "You're killing yourself for them," she'd say, her voice soft but firm. But slowing down wasn't an option. Birthdays, anniversaries, even my dad's funeral, I missed them all because I wanted to be the guy everyone depended on, especially her father, Walter Harper. Walter treated me like his own son. At least, that's what he said. He called me into his office late at night, when no one else was around, and poured us both glasses of bourbon. "You're the backbone of this company," he told me once, his voice thick with pride. "I trust you more than my own blood." Those words meant something to me back then. Hell, they meant everything. Too bad trust doesn't come with a contract. But here's the thing about loyalty. It only works if it goes both ways. And mine didn't. Because while I was busting my ass for the Harpers, Rachel was busy breaking my heart. Last year, I found out she'd been cheating on me, with Carter, Megan's boyfriend. Yeah, that Carter. The same guy who strutted around the office like he was some kind of tech genius because he flipped a few crypto coins and made a quick buck. Turns out, Rachel had been seeing him for months. Months. While I was working late, thinking she was waiting for me at home, she was sneaking off to hotels with him. I still remember the night I found out. I came home early from a business trip, a rare treat, and caught them in our bed. Carter didn't even have the decency to look ashamed. He just stood there in his boxers, smirking like he'd won some kind of prize. Rachel, though, she broke down crying the second she saw me. "It's not what it looks like," she pleaded, her voice cracking. Funny thing is, it was exactly what it looked like. I asked her why, and she couldn't give me a straight answer. "You're never here," she finally blurted out. "Carter listens to me. He makes me feel alive." Alive. That word hit me like a punch to the gut. All those years I had spent building their empire, sacrificing everything for her family, and she felt dead inside because of me. Or maybe it wasn't about me at all. Maybe it was about the Harpers, their money, their power, their expectations. Either way, it didn't matter. Trust doesn't break once, it shatters. We split up a week later, and I moved out, leaving behind 10 years of what I thought was love. Turns out, Rachel only cared about keeping the Harper name shiny and powerful. 2 months ago, Walter stepped down. Stage 4 pancreatic cancer sent him overseas for private treatment, and since he didn't have any sons, he handed the reins over to his oldest daughter, Megan, my ex-sister-in-law. Megan? She's got expensive shoes, a razor-sharp attitude, and zero respect for anyone who doesn't bow to her. From the moment she took over, I saw the writing on the wall. She stopped inviting me to meetings. She shuffled my team around, stripping me of projects I'd built from the ground up. Started copying Carter on emails I used to handle myself. Still, I stayed quiet. Watched every move. Kept records of everything. Then it happened. During the quarterly board meeting, where I was set to pitch a $12 million expansion plan, Megan strolled in smirking like she'd already won. "We're shifting gears," she said, cutting me off mid-presentation. A younger, fresher approach. Then she glanced at Carter, who sat there in his tailored suit, looking as smug as a cat who caught the canary. "You've done good work, but we're moving on without you." There were a few snickers from the yes-men on the board. Even Rachel just stared at her hands, refusing to meet my eyes. I looked around the room, calm and collected. And then I smiled. "Got it," I said simply. "I'll pack up tonight." Megan raised an eyebrow. "You're taking this awfully well." "Oh, I'm fine," I replied, standing up slowly. "Actually, tomorrow's going to be interesting." What Megan didn't know, what none of them knew, was that I'd been preparing for this exact moment for the past 2 years. When the truth came out tomorrow, their empire would crumble. And Rachel? She'd realize exactly what she'd lost when she chose Carter over me. The next morning, I arrived at the office earlier than usual. The sun was just beginning to peek over the horizon, casting long shadows across the empty parking lot. It felt surreal, like stepping onto a battlefield where you already knew the outcome. The air smelled crisp, almost electric, as if even nature could sense that today wasn't going to be an ordinary day. I unlocked the front door and made my way to my office, bypassing the familiar creaks of the floorboards. For 10 years, this place had been my second home, a labyrinth of late nights, hard-won victories, and countless sacrifices. But not anymore. Today, it would become the stage for their undoing. Sitting down at my desk, I opened my laptop and inserted a flash drive containing everything I'd meticulously gathered over the past 2 years. Financial discrepancies, falsified reports, emails detailing insider trading schemes, all neatly organized into folders with timestamps and annotations. Walter might have trusted me once, but Megan and Carter? They were careless, arrogant, and greedy, qualities that left behind trails of evidence too glaring to ignore. By the time the rest of the staff started trickling in, I was ready. I sent out a single email, one final act of defiance, to every board member, investor, and key stakeholder. Attached was a document titled, "The Truth About Harper Enterprises." In it, I laid bare the rot festering beneath the polished veneer of the company they all revered. Megan walked into the office shortly after 9, her heels clicking against the marble floors like gunshots. She looked confident, untouchable, as she usually did. But when she saw me standing outside her office, leaning casually against the wall with a folder tucked under my arm, her expression faltered. "What are you still doing here?" she snapped, clearly annoyed. "I thought we agreed you'd clear out yesterday." "Oh, I'm leaving," I said smoothly, pushing off the wall. "But before I go, I wanted to give you something." I handed her the folder. Her perfectly manicured fingers hesitated before taking it. She flipped it open, scanning the contents. Within seconds, her face drained of color. This is impossible," she stammered, flipping through page after page of damning evidence. "Where did you get this?" "Let's just say I've been paying attention," I replied evenly. "Every meeting, every deal, every shady transaction. You people weren't exactly discreet." Her eyes darted toward Carter's workstation, where he sat obliviously scrolling through his phone. "Carter," she barked, striding toward him. He looked up, startled by the panic in her voice. When Megan thrust the folder into his hands, his smirk quickly faded. His face turned pale, then red, then ghostly white again. "Do you know what this means?" Megan hissed, grabbing him by the collar. "They'll destroy us." "No, no, no," Carter muttered, shaking his head frantically. "We can fix this. We can spin it." "There's nothing to spin," I interrupted, walking over to join them. Both turned to glare at me, their faces twisted with fury and fear. "You've been running this company into the ground for years, funneling profits offshore, inflating stock prices, laundering money through shell corporations. And now everyone knows." Rachel appeared at the edge of the room, looking confused and alarmed. "What's going on?" she asked, glancing between Megan, Carter, and me. Megan ignored her, instead rounding on me with venom in her voice. "You think this is some kind of revenge? You're finished, do you hear me? No one will ever hire you again after this." I laughed, a low, bitter sound that echoed through the silent office. "You really don't get it, do you? This isn't about revenge. This is about justice. For 10 years, I gave everything to this company, to your family. And what did I get in return? Betrayal. Lies. A slap in the face while you lined your pockets and screwed me over." Rachel stepped forward, tears welling in her eyes. "Please don't do this," she pleaded. "There has to be another way." "Another way?" I repeated, my voice sharp enough to cut glass. "You had 10 years to choose honesty, loyalty, love, and you picked Carter. You chose power and convenience over me. So no, there isn't another way." Just then, the elevator doors opened, and a group of men in suits emerged. They moved with purpose, heading straight for Megan and Carter. One of them held a briefcase, its contents undoubtedly related to the fallout from my email. Megan let out a strangled cry, realizing the gravity of the situation. As they led her and Carter away, Rachel collapsed into a chair, sobbing uncontrollably. I stood there for a moment, watching her break down, the woman who had once promised to stand by me through thick and thin. Part of me wanted to feel sorry for her, but the truth was, she'd made her choice long ago. With one last glance around the office, the place where I'd spent a decade of my life, I turned and walked out the door. As I stepped into the sunlight, I felt lighter than I had in years. The weight of betrayal, resentment, and misplaced loyalty finally lifted. Whatever came next, I knew one thing for certain. I was done playing someone else's game. From now on, I'd write my own rules. The weeks that followed were a blur of headlines, whispers, and chaos. The scandal surrounding Harper Enterprises dominated the news cycle, unraveling like a slow-motion car crash everyone couldn't look away from. Reporters camped outside my apartment building, shoving microphones in my face every time I stepped out for coffee or groceries. "Mr. Carter, did you orchestrate this downfall?" they'd shout. "Is it true you destroyed your own family?" At first, I didn't answer. What could I say? The truth spoke for itself. The documents, the emails, the paper trail Megan and Carter had so carelessly left behind told the story better than I ever could. But as the days stretched into weeks, I realized something important. Silence would only fuel their narrative. If I wanted to control the message, I needed to step into the spotlight. So one rainy Tuesday morning, I agreed to an exclusive interview with the New York Chronicle. Their reporter, Elena Vasquez, was known for her sharp wit and unflinching honesty, a perfect match for someone like me who didn't have time for sugarcoating. We met at a quiet cafe downtown, far enough from the media circus, but close enough to keep things real. Elena slid a digital recorder across the table, her piercing green eyes locking onto mine. "Start from the beginning," she said simply. "Why now?" I leaned back in my chair, letting the question hang in the air for a moment. Outside, raindrops streaked the windows like tears. "Because," I began, choosing my words carefully, "there comes a point when staying silent becomes complicity. For 10 years, I watched them manipulate, lie, and exploit, not just me, but everyone around them. They treated people as pawns, tools to be used and discarded. And when they finally turned on me, I decided enough was enough." Elena nodded, jotting notes in shorthand. "And Rachel?" she asked pointedly. "Where does she fit into all of this?" Her name hit me like a punch to the chest, even after everything. I hesitated, staring into my untouched cup of black coffee. "Rachel." I sighed, running a hand through my hair. "She made her choices, same as I did. She chose them, their money, their power, their lies, over us. Over me. That hurt more than anything else. But this isn't about her. It's about holding people accountable." Elena tilted her head, studying me intently. "Do you think you've done that? Held them accountable?" "Yes," I said firmly. "But not because I wanted revenge. Revenge implies emotion. This wasn't personal, it was justice. Walter Harper built something great, but his kids tore it apart piece by piece. I couldn't let that stand." The article came out 2 days later titled, "The Man Who Brought Down an Empire." It painted me as both hero and villain, a man driven by principle yet burdened by loss. Some praised me as a whistleblower, others condemned me as a traitor. Either way, the public ate it up. Within hours, the piece went viral, sparking debates online and offline about corporate ethics, loyalty, and betrayal. Meanwhile, life moved forward, or tried to, anyway. Harper Enterprises filed for bankruptcy shortly after the expose broke, its stock plummeting faster than anyone thought possible. Investors fled, employees scrambled to find new jobs, and the once mighty Harper name became synonymous with greed and corruption. Walter, still receiving treatment abroad, released a terse statement condemning his children's actions while expressing regret for the company's collapse. He never mentioned me directly, but the subtext was clear. He felt betrayed. As for Megan and Carter, they disappeared from public view almost immediately. Rumors swirled, they'd been indicted, fled the country, gone into hiding, but no one knew for sure. Rachel, however, stayed put. She reached out to me several times, leaving desperate voicemails and texts begging to meet. At first, I ignored her. After everything, hearing her voice felt like reopening a wound that had barely begun to heal. But eventually, curiosity got the better of me. One evening, I texted her back. "Tomorrow. 6 p.m. Central Park. We met near the Bethesda fountain, where golden light filtered through the trees as the sun dipped below the horizon. Rachel looked smaller somehow, frailer, as if the weight of recent events had hollowed her out. She wore no makeup, her hair pulled back in a loose ponytail. For a long moment, we just stood there, staring at each other like strangers. "I'm sorry," she whispered finally, her voice trembling. "For everything. I didn't mean for any of this to happen." I crossed my arms, keeping my distance. Didn't mean for what to happen, exactly? The cheating? The lies? Destroying the company? All of it. She burst out, tears streaming down her face. "You don't understand. I was scared, lonely, trapped. You were always working, always chasing the next deal, and I needed someone who saw me, who listened. So you picked Carter," I said flatly. "Real smart move." "It wasn't about him," she cried. "It was about how you made me feel, or didn't make me feel. Empty. Invisible. Like nothing I did mattered unless it benefited you or your career." Her words stung, cutting deeper than I cared to admit. Maybe she was right. Maybe I had been blind to her pain, too focused on proving myself to the Harpers to notice what was happening right under my nose. But that didn't excuse what she'd done. "You should have talked to me," I said quietly, "instead of sneaking around behind my back. And you should have trusted me," she shot back, her voice breaking. "But neither of us did we?" Silence fell between us, heavy and suffocating. Finally, she wiped her tears and straightened her shoulders. "I know I can't fix this. Not completely. But I hope someday you'll forgive me for my part in all of this." I didn't respond. Forgiveness wasn't something I was ready to offer. Not yet, maybe not ever. Instead, I turned and walked away, leaving her standing alone by the fountain as dusk settled over the park. In the months that followed, I started rebuilding, not just my life, but myself. I rented a small loft in Brooklyn, traded tailored suits for jeans and hoodies, and began consulting for startups focused on ethical business practices. It wasn't glamorous work, but it felt honest. Real. One night, as I sat on my balcony watching the city lights twinkle like stars, I realized something. I wasn't angry anymore. Not at Rachel, not at Megan, not even at Carter. They'd taken their shots, played their games, and ultimately lost. But I'd survived. More than that, I'd come out stronger. Whatever the future held, I knew one thing for certain. I wouldn't let anyone else define me again. From here on out, I was writing my own story. And this time, I wasn't playing by anyone else's rules.